everybody. I'm so excited to have you here another week. This is Denise Borraz Trepat and welcome again to the Actor's Vow. So this week I'm alone. I don't have a guest, but I'm hoping that for next week I will have one. I have people lined up, but I'm still waiting for this damn mic that is never arriving because, COVID and things are taking forever. But it will happen and it's gonna be so good, I promise. So this week, I wanted to talk about preparing a role for auditions. Because we all know how to prepare a role, or we've studied it in college, and we can talk about that another day. But I think preparing a role for an audition is different than preparing a role for theater or for film, in the way that you might have less time. They can tell you have an audition tomorrow and you have 24 hours to get ready, and of course you don't have weeks and months to do all the character research and all the amazing work you would do otherwise. And also because casting directors are not looking for a finished product, and they're not looking for the same stuff they would be looking for in a finished performance. So I have prepared 10 questions that you can use to prepare an audition. 10 questions that will make your life easier, that even if you have an audition in 2 hours that they just told you about, you can go through those and at least be the best version of yourself that you can be in that audition and give your best performance with what you have been given. But before we get to that, I want to introduce the Sunday spotlight of this week. His name is Andrew Velez, and he is actually from Ecuador and lives in Argentina. So he's the first international actor that we have in Sunday Spotlight, which is very excited. I love featuring all kind of cultures and people from all around the world. I hope this can be a community for everybody, not just people here in America. So he will be talking about his theater company in Argentina, and he will be talking about where he finds the inspiration and about his story, about how he wanted to come here to the US, but things didn't work out the exact way he wanted them to work out, and he's found other routes in which he can express acting and his creativity and everything he is doing in Argentina, which is amazing. So you'll be able to read his full interview this Sunday in the Actor's Vow Instagram account. But if you want to find him before that, he has an Instagram and his handle is @DrewVelez, which is @DrewVelez. Okay, so for this week's episode, again, we're going to be talking about how do you prepare when you have an audition. And I'm not talking about learning the lines and going through the monologue or the sides over and over again. We all know that's a must, but I'm talking character preparation, character research. What things do you have to ask yourself to be able to deliver the performance the casting directors or playwrights or whoever's there wants to see from you? So here are the 10 questions, and I will say them all together and then we will get into each one of them. The first one is, where are you? Second, why are you there? Third, what is the moment before? Fourth, what is the relationship? Fifth, where is the love? Sixth, where is the humor? 7, what is your secret? 8, what are you fighting for? 9, how can I create urgency? And 10, what are the opposites? So all these questions you might have heard in your acting class, but I think they're especially important for auditions because all of them create a dynamic performance and a 3-dimensional character. And it's going to create something that is unique to you, and it's not going to look like what everybody else is doing, just, reading sides or just performing the monologue. It's going to make your character live. So the first question is, where are you? This is a very simple one, but like all these questions, it doesn't just have one word answer or even a one sentence answer. You need to define and make sure to have the surroundings clear in your head. You need to say, okay, in an office, there is a table there, a chair there. Even if that's not going to be in the audition, you have to see there is a window there. That's very important. Where's the window in the room? Are there windows? Is there a lamp? Is there anybody else there, how can you use whatever is there? And what does this place mean for the character? That's a very important one. We as people feel certain things in different places. You can be in a place that's strange to you. You can be in a place that is very familiar to you. So how do you feel about that? Have you had bad memories in that place? Is it a place that makes you feel at home? Is it a place that gives you good memories? A place that makes you happy? Describe that. Make sure to write it down or speak it out loud if you don't have time to write it down because maybe you've been called 2 hours, 3 hours before an audition. Make sure to describe it in your head and make it very, very clear. And if you can say it out loud, even better, and visualize it. That's the first step that you have to do. The second one is, why are you there? Why are you in that place? Even more important than why are you there is, why do you want to stay? I'm sure you've heard this before, but a scene wouldn't happen if two characters wouldn't want to be there. Even in an argument, you are arguing because you want to be there. Something's holding you there. You are not leaving. If you really wanted to leave, you would leave. That's why many times there's an argument scene or something controversial, something with anger, and you ask an actor, what do you want? What does your character want? And they say, I want to leave. No, that's never the answer. If there is a scene happening, if there is a monologue happening, you are there for a reason and you want to stay there for a reason. So find that out. If the character really didn't like the other person, then it needs something for that person. So what is that thing you need from them in order for this scene to happen? What is it? Again, speak it out loud or write it down. The third one is, what is the moment before? We've heard this one many times. I'm sure your acting teachers have told you so many times, what is the moment before? But again, make it specific. You know, it doesn't work if you're performing, for example, Romeo and Juliet, and you are Juliet coming out in the balcony, and you say the moment before, okay, I was at the party. No, that's not what we're asking. What the directors are asking you and what they want to see is everything. They want it as specific. They want the backstory. The moment before is all the backstory. And again, sometimes you don't have years of backstory because you don't have the time for it. You don't have the time for the research. But at least you need the moment before, not just the moment right before the scene, but the moment before for those characters too. What is their past relationship? What has happened right before this? Where do you come from? What is your mood because you come from this place? Make it very specific as you can. And the fourth question, the next one, is actually, what is the relationship? This one is such an important one. And again, the answer is not just, it's my sister, it's my boyfriend, it's my mother. You really have to go further than that. Like, how do you feel about them? And also, don't just go with one answer. You can say, how do you feel about your brother? Oh, I like him. We get along. That's not a good answer, and that's not going to help you for the preparation of your audition, because we never just feel one thing for someone. We as humans have very complex relationships, very complex emotions. And you know, you can love your parents but also resent them, or you can not like someone but love them, like a partner, or you can be scared of a partner but also love them, or you know, so many different opposites that can find each other when you have a relationship with someone or a friend. You can love them but be jealous of them. There are so many layers to a relationship, and you need to explore them to be able to deliver that performance that needs to happen for the audition. We humans are very complex, so your characters are very complex too. The next one is, where is the love? And this is one of my favorite ones. And I don't think we talk about this one that much, but we humans love a lot. And a lot of times when there is a scene or a monologue, it is guided by love. even if it's a fight scene, even if it's something very dramatic, even if it's something that you would perceive as very negative, the reason why the stakes are so high is because there has to be love somewhere in there. And we so many times fail to realize that as actors. I would love to do a whole episode about love, actually, and I'm sure I will at some point, but love is another thing that's very complex. And we as humans are very used to seeing love as what we see in movies, or even just as romantic love. And love goes way beyond just romantic love that we see in the movies, and love is, well, this guy brings you chocolates and flowers, or everything is perfect. And the reality of it is that it's never perfect. Love is never perfect. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. Love is never a fairy tale love. And as actors, that's really, really important that you understand that, so you can translate that to your acting into your scenes. Love can come in so many forms. Like, you can take any fighting scene or any angry monologue and find the love. I guarantee you, in any part, maybe you can find the love even for your own self. You can find the love for your own character. Maybe you can find the love that you have for the other person, and that's why you're staying in that room, even if you are saying you hate them. In any scene, in any monologue, there is somewhere where you can find the love. The next one is, where is the humor? And this is also a very important one, same as where is the love, that I think as actors we also overlook a lot and can make such a big difference in an audition. It can really be the difference from getting a role to not getting it. We actors take ourselves very seriously, and we take our characters very seriously. And finding the humor doesn't always mean being funny, doesn't always mean making the people in the room laugh, which if you can do, amazing. It's also extra brownie points, great. But finding the humor goes beyond that. It's finding the irony too in the scene or the monologue, finding the moment where you can laugh at yourself, when you can be bigger than what it is, because that's what comedy is, just someone who takes themselves too seriously. You can find that too, but you can also find in something that is very sad a moment where a smile can show up. There's many ways and you can find a humor, but this is something that not everybody can do, and that is something that casting directors and directors really, really appreciate, especially, after a long day of seeing the same scene or the same monologue many, many times, and someone brings something very different to the table. And also, let's be real. If you can find the humor in something, it also shows that you are an intelligent actor. So that is also a plus. The next question is, what is your secret? And I know I said that Where's the Love was probably my favorite one, but I actually changed my mind. My favorite one is, what is your secret? And I've used that in all my performances outside of auditions, but I think it's such an amazing tool that we actors have to use. It's an amazing one, and I will talk more about it in another episode, but let's talk about it for audition. So what is your secret means that you have to make up one secret for your character. For an audition, one is enough. If you were in a performance, I'd say more, but for an audition, one is enough. And it's something that only you know, but a trick to it is that it has to do with the other character in the scene. Now, if it's a monologue, it's a little bit trickier, but you still can find a secret that has to do with whoever you are thinking about or talking about in the monologue, or a secret that has to do with whatever you're saying in the monologue. But if you have a scene very important that it has to do with your partner, that creates mystery. And it has to be a secret that you will never tell. And it's great because we all have that. We all have this one secret. Maybe sometimes two, maybe sometimes three. But there's always one at least secret that we never have told anybody. But the funny part is that at some point you will end up telling someone, because The point of this secret is that it's a secret that it's so strong that you really do want to tell it to somebody. You just haven't found the right person to tell it to. So we do that. We have that. Putting that in a character creates such an interesting relationship with the other person. And it's not that in the performance you're thinking about that secret, but that secret will inform you in the way you will perform, and it will make it so specific. We all have talked to people, even if it's a secret that you've told to maybe someone else, maybe there's one or two people in the world that know it, you can be in a conversation with someone else that doesn't know it. So that secret, it has to be something that you haven't told the other character, but that you want them to know. It's something that you are saying that you don't want them to know, but you actually want them to know, and you want them to ask you about it. And again, you don't have to think about it during the scene or during the monologue, but it will really, really inform you. The 8th question you have to ask yourself before you go into an audition room and you've prepared your character is, what are you fighting for? I think this is another one that you've probably heard in many acting classes and many people talk about. But this is such an important one. It really creates a drive and energy and movement in the performance. If you don't know what your character is fighting for, there is no need for you to be even there. And there is always an answer. No matter how much you think your character is passive, no matter how much you think your character is lazy or doesn't want anything from life, that's not true. We all want something, and it's in bigger or smaller scales. Some of us have bigger ambitions, some of us have smaller ambitions. You might have to play a character that, all they want to do is to be loved by someone next to them, or all they want to do is, to have something to take care of them. It can be many different forms. Maybe some characters want a lot of money and they're fighting for fame, and other characters are fighting to get an ice cream in a scene. That's a small one. That might be your scene objective, but you have to find what is driving that character. Even if it doesn't show in the scene you're performing or in the monologue you're performing, there is something bigger that drives this character to do what they do. And number 9 is kind of related to this one, and it is, how can you create urgency? In other ways, you've probably heard it also as rise the stakes. Like they always tell you that, right? How can the stakes be higher? And that's so important. And especially for an audition. This is one of those that for an audition is even more important than for a performance. And you can even take it out of context. And here's how. You have to create an urgency. You have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, very little time in a performance, in an audition, to show how you can create urgency, and you're trying to show them the best you. And maybe the scene they gave you, the monologue they gave you, doesn't show that side of your character, but you need to do that. So even if you don't perform it like that in the full play or the scene, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it, in the audition you have to. If, for example, there is 2 people, and in the play they might be falling in love, like in the scene they are starting to know each other and they are starting to have feelings for each other. In the audition, prepare it as if you are already crazy about them. You gotta show them a little bit what is that finished product, because I'm gonna let you into a secret, and I don't know if I should say this here, but a lot of people that will be auditioning you don't have a lot of imagination, and they need to see things very visually in front of them. So you really need to make it very clear that you can get to that point for them, and also creating urgency will raise the stakes. And find why this is important. Find why the scene or the monologue you're saying is important. That will really help you to create the urgency. Knowing why what you're doing is important. And important doesn't really mean essential. Sometimes we're doing a scene and as actors we think it's like so silly. We're like, there's nothing important here. They're just arguing about who's gonna get the ice cream, right? But important means emotionally significant for the character at that moment. And we all have things like that, that if you look at them, someone looks at them from the outside, they're like, why are they upset, or like, why are they fighting for this, why are they saying this? Because it's important to you in an emotional level. It's important to you at that moment too. Maybe tomorrow it won't be important to you. So it could be, like the character breaks the makeup palette and it falls on the floor, or you get the wrong coffee order at Starbucks. Okay, in the big scale it doesn't matter, but for your character it is important. So find the urgency, find the reason, find the importance of the scene or monologue at that moment. And 10th and final one is, what are the opposites? This is also a very important one that I'm sure you've heard, but for auditions again is extra important, because again, in an audition you have little time and you have to show them a lot in little time. If you can play the opposites, if you can not make those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes all the same, you can show them the range. That will make such a difference. Whatever emotion or whatever theme you think the scene is about, play the opposite. I'm going to give you an example, and this is not an audition, this is a performance that I did. Actually was my first lead role ever when I was 15, 16 years old, and I played Doña Inés in Don Juan Tenorio, which is a Spanish play. I know you were just like, what did she just say? It's a Spanish play. It's in Spanish and it's in verse. It's like a Spanish Shakespeare, like Romeo and Juliet almost. It is a love story and it's all in verse, classic, whatever. I played the lead there, and she is very tormented the whole play. She the whole time is like complaining and, oh my God, what it's going to be of my life, everything's so horrible. And then even when she falls in love, like all her lines are like, oh, this is so terrible, what is going to happen, I love you, poor me. So if you read it, she just looks tormented and sad the whole time. Like everything is so much. And poor 15, 16-year-old me, that's how she played her. And I remember someone said to me after the performance, you were good, but you just were so afflicted the whole time. And at that time, I, of course, took it very personally. And I was like, what do they mean? Like, that's the character. She's always saying that. She's always so afflicted. She's always so sad. I didn't understand. And then, years have passed. I have a video of it, so I've seen it. And I understand now. Yes, she says she's afflicted the whole time, but I spent 2 hours of a play playing the same thing. Like, yes, I changed from angry to sad but it was all such negative emotions. If I could have found the opposites in it, if I could have brought, the happiness and the sadness, if I could have brought the maybe more shy moments, more excited moments, more, maybe she hasn't experienced that because she's been always locked at home. The surprise, the willingness to explore. There are so many things that I could have brought in that. And I've seen so many performances that lack the opposites. And again, we humans are very complex. We have opposites in everything all the time. So make sure you find that in your character and in your audition. Make sure you can really show those opposites of whatever the emotion or the theme is. And those are the 10 big questions. If you answer those, you will really be ready for that audition. And you will show them the best part of yourself. They might like it less, they might like it more, but at least you will seem like a prepared actor and they will see a three-dimensional character, not just someone who's there reading the lines and playing the obvious, which no one really likes, and especially if you're seeing the same again and again. I wanted to add 2 more things that are also important. The same way that I said find the love, also you can find the selfishness. We also as humans have a selfish side. You can be more or less selfish, but we have an ego. And it's not a bad thing. Like, we have to take care of ourselves too, you know? And also, we're not all saints. Like, there's people who are really, really selfish. So I think that it's something that because we don't like to accept, not a lot of people accept that they have a selfish time and a selfish side. And trust me, we all do in one way or another. Actors don't like to put that in their roles because we don't like it in ourselves or in other people. But we need to be realistic, and that's how life is. And there is a selfish side to humans. So if you can find the selfishness in the scene, it's also another layer that you add to it, because we a lot of times do things for an end that's selfish, even if it's subconsciously. Sometimes you don't know, but sometimes you could be buying something for someone because you want them to thank you. And it's not like you're doing it on purpose, you really want them to be happy, you know. Or sometimes another character could be maybe saying really beautiful things to another one because they actually do really love them, but there's also something else they can get from them because maybe they are scared of being alone, or they've had a bad day and they want the other person to tell them I love you back. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because they really do love them, but there is that selfishness innate in things that we do. So if you can find that in the scene, that's a very interesting thing to play with too. And then the other tip I have is that every time you do the scene, if you go there and you do the scene and they ask you to do it another way, or sometimes they will ask you to just do it again and they will not give you any direction, which, like, it's a trap. Like, really, if they do that, like, they're not telling you do it exactly the same way. They want you to explore it. So here's the tip. The tip is every time you do it, discover something new about your character, about the other character, about the relationship, whatever it is. Find something that is new that you can incorporate. Be present. Be really present and find that something that was why they made you repeat the scene. Don't get in your head. Don't be like, oh my God, why are they making me do it again without direction? Like, what did I do wrong? No. Just be there and explore and have fun with it. So these are all my tips about how to prepare for an audition. Hopefully we'll have a lot of those in person really soon when all this is over. But for now, you can incorporate all this to your self-tapes. It will really, really make a difference when they get those videos, especially across a camera. You know, it's not the same as seeing someone in person. So if you can make an impression and create something that is you, create something that is unique to you, something that has movement, that has energy, something that is interesting to watch, you have so much to win. So this will be all for this week. Before we leave, of course, we have the play of the week. And this week, it's How I Learned to Drive by Paula Vogel. I hope I pronounced that name right. This is not the first one. One of the first plays I saw in America. And I'm sure a lot of you know it. I've heard so many people talk about it. But even if you know it, I just wanted to remind you of it. And because it also has very minimal characters, it has amazing scenes for scene study, great monologues, and it's a really beautiful play, especially if you're a young actor and you working on things to explore different emotions and explore different scenes, and this is a great play for that. And if you haven't read it, I really recommend you to read it, even if you're not preparing for an audition or monologue. It's a really beautiful, complex, and very hard play in some ways. It's very emotionally charged. So this is the play of the week, How I Learned to Drive by Paula Vogel. And again, next week, I'm almost 100% sure we will have a guest and it's going to be amazing. So thank you again for another week. If you love this episode, please subscribe on iTunes. I know I say this every week, but it's really, really helpful. And your reviews are really, really helpful too for the podcast. And I read all of them and they make me so happy, and it also like helps other people find the podcast. You know, the more subscribers and the more comments and likes, the more visible the podcast is gonna be. So, you know, you can also help other actors if this helped you and if you find this information helpful. Submissions for Sunday Spotlight are still open. You can find them in the website of theactorsval.com. I don't have it on the link in bio, but right now in the link in bio, I have the link to get the 10 must-read books for actors. So if you haven't gotten that, go to the link in bio on Instagram at theactorsval, and you will get the list of 10 must-read books for actors. It's a great list. Again, if you read all those, you will be set and you will be ready to take over the acting world. If you don't follow The Actors Well on social media, please do so on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And I will see you next Wednesday.